You told Bloomberg a week or two ago that you think that the debt limit should be used as leverage to reform things like Social Security. Can you explain and what changes are you willing to default in order to make some of these changes that you want?
Well, I never believe default is an option. But I do think that when you're trying to do a debt limit increase, which in my experience here is a hard vote, and whoever has the majorities or the White House or whomever, it generally has to produce or deliver the votes for that, that it does present an opportunity to have a conversation about the debt. And, in 2011, the Budget Control Act came out of those conversations, and that did put some caps on and restrained for at least a few years discretionary spending in a significant way. And then it created this debt commission essentially that met and was supposed to come up with recommendations on how to deal with entitlement programs and the mandatory part of federal spending. And they ultimately couldn't come up with that, but it was a mechanism where if they'd produced it, it would have been an up and down vote in both the House and the Senate. And I think it's going to take something that provides some political insulation for people up here to make some of the hard decisions about how we deal with the sustainability of a lot of these programs that are headed for bankruptcy. And there was a lot made of what I said there. All I simply said was that we need to look at how we can reform these programs so that they're available not just to people who are retired or retiring today, but future generations of Americans. And I think that's a conversation we need to have. But if we could even come up with a process that would lead to perhaps somewhere down the road a result. And the other thing I've always said about this, Leanne, is that big issues like this, particularly talking about entitlement reform, require presidential leadership. And there's have been presidents that have been interested in doing it. I mean, President Trump wasn't interested in dealing with this issue, and we continue to kick the can down the road. The debt continues to grow, and I think we get into a situation where if at some point we're going to have to face this, there will be a day of reckoning, and I would rather take steps in advance of that help ease that transition rather than have a crisis come up on us, which I think is inevitable if we don't start taking steps today to deal with it. So can the debt limit present that opportunity? I think it can, but we'll see. We have a number of our members who have ideas on budget reforms. We have people who want to see a no government shutdown provision added, so we didn't have to deal with the specter of shutdowns on a recurring basis. And then I think maybe perhaps even more so, coming up with a mechanism to deal with the mandatory part of our federal budget, which is 2/3 of federal spending today, and is if left on autopilot, unsustainable. These programs are going to go bankrupt if we don't do something soon.